Welcome to the 2012-2013 Intramural Sports season. My name is Ben Smith. I'm the coordinator of Intramural Sports here at Virginia Tech. Along with me today are the two Intramural Sports graduate assistants, Morgan Fradley and Jeff Feldhaus. As captains, it is your responsibility to share all the information presented in this video with your teammates. You can actually send them the YouTube link so they can view the video on their own time. Also, under each sport on our website is the captain's information sheet. Make sure you review this prior to season play.
The Intramural Sports program follows a game time is forfeit time policy. This means that if you don't have the minimum number of players required to start your game at the assigned game time, you will not be able to play that game. We suggest that all captains inform their teammates to arrive no later than 15 minutes before game time to ensure your team will be able to play.
Hold on, guys. It's 5:30. Game time's forfeit time. Unfortunately, Maroon, you guys don't have enough players, so that means Orange, you're going to get the win.
We have the rest of our team. They're parking right now over there. You can see them walking.
I mean, my guys want to play, so we can wait for them to show up.
We can't do that. Unfortunately, if we hold back this game, it's going to hold back the rest of the games. So, Maroon, you're going to have to default. Orange, you're going to get the win. It won't count officially as a game, but you guys have the field. You can scrimmage, play around until the next game starts.
Want to play?
Yeah, we'll just play.
As part of your team's registration fee, you paid a $20 forfeit bond. If your team plays all your regular season and playoff games without forfeiting, you will be able to request a full refund of this $20. Any team that has at least 50% of the required number of players on site at game time, but not the minimum required to start, will default that game. A default counts as a loss for that team and a win for the opposing team. During regular season, all teams are allowed one default without penalty. A second default during the regular season counts as a forfeit. A team with fewer players than required to default will forfeit their game at game time. Any team forfeiting during the regular season will have to pay a $20 forfeit bond reinstatement fee by 5 p.m. the second business day after the forfeit in order to stay in the league. For instance, a team forfeiting Monday night at 7:30 p.m. must pay the $20 forfeit bond reinstatement fee by 5 p.m. on Wednesday. This fee cannot be paid online, but must be paid in person in 142 McComas Hall. Any team that forfeits during the playoffs will be ineligible to receive a refund of their $20 forfeit bond. Any team that defaults during the playoffs will be eligible to receive only $10 of their $20 forfeit bond. Teams forfeiting or defaulting during the playoffs are eliminated from the playoffs, including the beginner playoff divisions. A team may call in a default no later than 3 p.m. on the day of their game by calling 540-231-8297. This will keep a team from having to show up to the game site with at least 50% of their team present, but will be treated as any other default. Again, the best thing you can do to ensure your team doesn't forfeit or default is tell them to be at the game site no later than 15 minutes before game time. Don't forget,
Game time is forfeit time!
Once your team has arrived at the game site for your game, you and your teammates will need to check into the game with our intramural scorekeepers. These individuals are wearing bright green shirts, and there will be one station at each field of play. Your teammates can check into the game by presenting their Hokie passports to the scorekeeper and notifying him or her of your team name. No ID, no play. So make sure your teammates bring their Hokie passports. The scorekeeper will scan your teammates' Hokie passports and ask them if they agree to the assumption of risk. All intramural participants must agree to the assumption of risk before they will be allowed to participate. The assumption of risk can be found online for review at recsports.vt.edu/intramurals/policies. As captain, prior to the game ending, it is your responsibility to ask an intramural supervisor to see who has checked in for your roster that game. Intramural supervisors will be wearing navy blue polos or jackets. If you do not verify your roster prior to the end of the game, all of your team's players may not be successfully added to your roster and thus may be ineligible for future games. Again, The responsibility to verify your roster falls on you as the captain. The following individuals are eligible to participate in intramural sports: students who have paid their rec sports fee, faculty and staff, including employees with wage ID cards, CRC employees who have a Virginia Tech issued CRC ID, and individuals with a Virginia Tech issued campus ministry ID. When the scorekeeper checks your teammates into the game, our system will notify the scorekeeper immediately if an individual is not eligible. In those situations, a supervisor will be called to discuss the situation with both the individual and you as the captain. If you and the individual believe that he or she should be eligible, the supervisor can allow him or her to participate, but under the agreement that if that individual is not eligible, your team will forfeit the game and you will be required to pay the $20 forfeit bond reinstatement fee to continue in the league as per the previous discussed forfeit policy.
Individuals are allowed to play for one single-sex team. Males cannot play on women's teams, and females cannot play on men's teams. Instead, we offer a co-rec division for many of our sports. Individuals are allowed to also play for one co-rec team. You cannot have more than a +1 ratio of male to female or female to male when playing in the co-rec division. So for intramural sports where co-rec is offered, all individuals are eligible to play for 2 total teams, one in the co-rec division and one in their appropriate single-sex division. Our check-in system will catch any player trying to play for more teams in a sport than allowed. If an individual plays a single game with a team and he or she wishes to play for another team instead, he or she must do so within 7 days of playing with the first team. The scorekeeper will ask the player if he or she wishes to delete him or herself from the first team roster prior to playing with the second team. As captains, you are responsible for informing your teammates that they may only play with one team in a single-sex division and one team in a co-rec division. Team rosters are updated on a daily basis and posted online under the schedule's results link for each sport. So you can check there to ensure your teammates have not played with another team. There are no restrictions on the size of your roster. There are restrictions on the number of varsity athletes and sport club athletes that you may have competing for your intramural team. Varsity athletes are only allowed to participate in intramural sports that are not their allied varsity sport. Intramural teams are only allowed to have a certain number of varsity athletes on their roster at any one time. For this sport, that number is: a former varsity athlete is any athlete who has not been listed on the athletics roster for a minimum of 1 semester. Please note that 2 summer sessions count as 1 semester. The title of former varsity athlete stays with an individual for 5 years after last being listed on the varsity team. Former varsity athletes are allowed to participate in their allied intramural sport, but do count as part of the total number of varsity athletes on your roster. Sport club athletes are defined as anyone appearing on the recreational sports sport club rosters. Sport club athletes are only limited when participating in their allied intramural sport. For instance, an intramural soccer team can have an unlimited number of players from the sport club baseball team, but only a certain number of members from the sport club soccer teams. The maximum number of allied sport club athletes for this sport is: former or current professional athletes are defined as any athlete who was paid for playing a sport. Former and current professional athletes are ineligible to participate in their allied intramural sport. If you believe a team has ineligible players, you are able to file a protest. So next we are going to discuss our protest policies.
If you believe a player on the opposing team is ineligible, you can submit an eligibility protest. In order to make this protest, it must be done no later than this time. Any players who show up to the game after this time must be protested immediately if you believe they are ineligible. For all eligibility protests, we suggest you submit your protest as soon as possible. Once you have submitted your protest to the supervisor will discuss the situation with the opposing team captain. If the player in question is removed for the remainder of the game, no further action will be taken. If the opposing captain believes the player in question should be eligible, the supervisor will then record all pertinent game information and provide you with a protest form that you must fill out and submit along with the $10 protest fee by 12 noon the day after the game in 142 McComas Hall. The Intramural Sports Coordinator will then rule on the protest. If you are correct, you will receive your $10 back. If you are incorrect, you will lose your $10 fee. If during the game you believe the referees made a rule misapplication, you can protest that rule misapplication prior to the next live ball. Ask the referee to stop the game and notify him or her that you wish to protest a rule misapplication. The referee will then get the supervisor to come to the field to rule on your protest. After hearing your account of the rule misapplication, the supervisor will discuss the situation with all referees involved and then make a final ruling. If you still disagree with the ruling, you need to inform the supervisor that you wish to make a formal protest. The supervisor will then provide you with the formal protest form, as described previously, and you will have until 12 noon the day after the game to submit your protest form in 142 McComas Hall along with your $10 protest fee. Referee judgment, such as whether a ball was in or out of bounds, is not a rule misapplication and therefore not protestable. Again, if you are correct about your protest, you will receive your $10 back. If you are incorrect, you will lose the $10 protest fee.
At Virginia Tech, we try to live by the principles of community, and part of that is our dedication to improving the sportsmanship of our participants. Our motto is play hard, play fair, respect the game. Prior to each game, the referees will ask one member from a team to read out loud the intramural sportsmanship statement. As the captain, you will be given the opportunity at the end of the game to rate the sportsmanship level of the team you are playing on a 1 to 5 scale. The officials, scorekeeper, and supervisor of the game will also rate each team's sportsmanship to get an overall average sportsmanship rating for each team. Here's some more detailed information concerning each level of the scale. During the regular season, your team must maintain at least a 3.0 sportsmanship average to advance to the playoffs. Once the playoffs begin, you will be required to maintain a 3.0 sportsmanship average every single game in order to continue to advance. In order to encourage good sportsmanship by individuals, we have developed the I Am Nice shirt. Our supervisors will give these shirts out to participants who display acts of exceptional sportsmanship. In order to encourage good sportsmanship by all teams, we have the weekly sportsmanship award sponsored by Domino's Pizza. All teams receiving a perfect 5.0 sportsmanship rating for their game will be put into a weekly drawing within each sport. We will pull one team from that drawing and the entire team will receive free Domino's Pizza. So remember, play hard, play fair, respect the game. If a player on your team gets ejected from any intramural event, they will be ineligible to use McComas Hall or participate in any intramural event until they have had a meeting with an intramural sports graduate assistant. After meeting with the graduate assistant, the ejected individual will be eligible to use McComas Hall again, but will be ineligible to participate in intramurals until serving any suspension handed out by the graduate assistant. There are no self-imposed punishments. Any player who participates without serving their suspension after being ejected will be considered an ineligible player and will cause your team to forfeit any and all games he or she participates in and be subject to the previously discussed forfeit policies.
On the Thursday following the end of registration, teams that have been scheduled into the league will receive their regular season schedule. If the team is satisfied with its scheduled times, it does not have to do anything but show up to the game site 15 minutes before its scheduled game times. If a team needs to make a change to its schedule, be aware that we do not change individual games, but entire schedules. For example, if you are scheduled to play on Thursdays at 6:30 p.m., and your team has a conflict with the second Thursday game, we do not change just that game, but would change all of your game times. Teams needing to make a change have until 8 a.m. on Friday after receiving their schedule to submit the scheduled change request form located on the IM Sports Captain Scholar site. Teams will not be able to request a change after 8 a.m. on Friday and will be required to play as scheduled. Please note that we can only make a schedule change if we have requests from multiple teams within a division and if the requests of the teams can be matched. After regular season games are complete, all teams will be eligible to participate in the playoffs as long as they have not forfeited out of the league without paying the forfeit bond reinstatement fee and as long as they have maintained the 3.0 average sportsmanship rating across all regular season games. Most intramural sports will have advanced and beginner playoff levels. The champion of the advanced playoffs will receive the current year's intramural champion t-shirt. The champion of the beginner playoffs will receive an intramural sports t-shirt. For 9-on-9 soccer, flag football, volleyball, 5-on-5 basketball, intertube water polo, and softball, we will also have an intermediate playoff level. In those sports, the champion of the intermediate playoff level will receive an intramural sports t-shirt, and the beginner level playoffs will be split into groups of 4 where teams will get the opportunity to play 2 games as long as they don't forfeit or default. In those sports, there are no t-shirts awarded for the beginner playoffs. Although there are no limits on roster size, there are limits on the number of champion t-shirts that will be awarded. For this sport, that number is: teams will be placed into the playoff levels based on their record during the regular season. Teams will have an option of filling out a playoff conflict sheet prior to the scheduling of playoffs to notify the intramural sports program of days and times they have conflicts. On these conflict sheets, teams will also be able to request placement into the advanced or beginner level playoffs. Requests for the intermediate level playoffs will not be accepted. All requests for the advanced playoffs will be honored. All requests for the beginner playoffs may not be honored. Please note that we do not use your original conflicts submitted when registering the team. You must submit a playoff conflict sheet or be ready to play whenever scheduled. Playoff brackets will be updated every business day and posted online by 1 p.m. As playoffs progress, teams should be prepared to play back-to-back days, and possibly multiple games in a single night. No times will be given out over the phone, as all times will be available for viewing online. In situations where 2 teams are set to play in the playoffs, but a time cannot be found that fits both teams, teams may have to play during a time originally submitted as a conflict in order to advance in the playoffs.
Now let's talk about some sport-specific rules. First, I'll start by explaining some general soccer rules, and then I'll highlight some correct modifications. All indoor soccer contests are played between teams of 7, but a team may start a game with as few as 6 players. A game consists of 2 20-minute halves with a running clock. Teams do not have any timeouts, but a referee may suspend the game at his or her discretion, for example, for an injury. Due to time constraints and field availability, regular season games may end in a tie, but once we reach the playoffs, all games will be played until there is a winner. Please review the overtime rules listed in the Indoor Soccer Captain's Information Sheet, which is posted online. Now let's talk about putting the ball in play. The game begins with a kickoff, which may move in any direction and is a direct kick. The kicker may not play the ball again until it has been played by another player on either team. Players opposing the kicker must be at least 6 feet away from the ball until it is kicked. The ball is not out of play until the entire ball crosses the end line or sideline, whether on the ground or in the air. Any ball hitting a basketball hoop, backboard, or support will be considered out of bounds along the nearest sideline. Any player taking a kick-in must have the ball on or behind the sideline. For goal kicks, the ball will be placed anywhere inside the penalty box. For corner kicks, the ball must be placed on the corner. A kicker may not play the ball again until it has been touched or played by another player from either team. A team cannot score on a kick-in unless the ball is touched by another player. However, a team can score on a corner kick. If a kick-in does not enter the field of play, the ball is awarded to the opposing team at the spot of the kick-in. Opposing players must be at least 10 feet away from the ball until it is kicked. Remember, unless the ball is touched by another player, a goal cannot be scored on a kick-in, but a goal may be scored directly on corner kicks, goal kicks, and kickoffs. Goalies may not throw the ball in the air beyond the midfield line. The result is a kick-in for the opposing team on the sideline closest to the throw at midfield. The goalie may not drop kick or punt the ball. This results in a corner kick for the opposing team. Substitutions are made by having incoming substitutes waiting in the substitution box until the leaving player has at least 1 foot in the box. Substitutions for the goalkeeper must wait until a stoppage in play and must inform the referee of the switch. Infractions to substitution procedures will result in a yellow card for the incoming player. Indirect free kicks will be awarded for dangerous play, obstruction, and illegal handling by the goalie. Direct free kicks, other than goal kicks, corner kicks, and kickoffs, are awarded for handling, tripping, pushing, and other physical contact. If a defensive foul occurs in that team's penalty box, the offended team will be awarded a penalty kick. In a men's or women's game, if 2 minutes or less remain in regulation time and one team leads by 4 or more goals, the game will be ended due to mercy rule. In co-rec, if a team leads by 10 goals or more at any point during the last 2 minutes of the game shall be terminated. In co-rec, a team can play with 4 of one gender and 3 of the other. At any time, there may only be 1 more of a particular gender on the court. The goalie must be of the gender that has the extra player. Co-rec soccer also has a scoring modification. If a male scores a goal, it is worth 2 points. If a female scores a goal, it is worth 3 points. This modification includes penalty kicks. We understand that many intramural participants are competitive, but it is a responsibility of every player to play within the rules of the game and maintain proper sporting behavior. Any issues with sportsmanship will be dealt with by the officials or game administration. Yellow and red cards are given at the official's discretion and may be issued for unsportsmanlike behavior, such as language, gestures, excessive physical contact, repeated minor fouls, and excessive celebration. Be aware that slide tackling is illegal. Note that shin guards are not required for intramural soccer, but they are highly recommended. Lastly, please keep in mind that all soccer contests will be governed by the National Federation of State High School Association rules, not USSF rules, unless we have specifically adapted a rule for our campus, in which case the rule is outlined in the rules sheet posted on our website.
All intramural indoor soccer games will be played in War Memorial Hall gyms 125 and 141. Please be aware that there are parking restrictions on the drill field until 8 p.m. Please make sure you park in designated spots only. Practice balls will be available for checkout from the scorekeeper on site using your Hokie passport. All games must be played using an intramural sports game ball. Teams are required to show up to the courts with their own jerseys. All teams are required to have a white jersey and a jersey of some other color, and all jerseys must be numbered from 0 to 99. T-shirts with marker numbers are fine. Intramural Sports will not provide jerseys or pennies for checkout. Any team who does not have the required jerseys will be subject to forfeiture of the game. Please note that for soccer, our officials wear black, so teams are not allowed to have black jerseys. In the event where the home and visiting team desire to wear the same color for the game, the home team must change their color to the other color. Goalkeepers must wear a different color than either team and are not required to have a number on their jersey. The referees have the authority to require a player to change shoes if they perceive the player's shoes to be a danger. All jewelry must be removed prior to play, with the only exception being medical alert bracelets, which must be shown to the intramural supervisor and then taped over. We do not provide tape or markers for numbering jerseys.
In case of inclement weather, call 540-231-6060 to check the Intramural Sports Hotline. This hotline will be updated after 4 p.m. each day. In situations where games start on a night and inclement weather comes, the supervisor on duty will make all decisions concerning game status and will update the hotline if he or she has to cancel games. Games canceled due to inclement weather during the regular season will not be rescheduled. At the end of each game, the team captain will nominate one person from the other team as that team's MVP for the game. At the end of the season, we will select one individual for each division, men's, women's, and co-rec, as the MVP for that division for that sport. That individual will be recognized at the end of the year award ceremony to be held at this time. We will also select one team per sport as the sportsmanship winner of that sport. Throughout the year, teams can earn points toward the Hokie Grail by filling in their Hokie Grail team information during registration. Throughout the year, Intramural Sports will send out surveys to participants to get feedback for our top 10 team names. Both the Hokie Grail winners and top 10 team name winners will be recognized at the awards ceremony. Captains who watch this video and complete the online test with a perfect score by 5 p.m. on the Monday after registration closes will be scheduled into the league based on when their complete registration was submitted. These teams will receive their schedule via email by 12 noon on the Thursday after registration closes. They will have until Friday at 8 a.m. to submit a schedule change request. Instructions will be outlined in the email containing the schedule on how to make that request. After Friday at 8 a.m., teams will not be able to request a schedule change. Any team whose captain does not watch the video and complete the online test with a perfect score by 5 p.m. on the Monday after registration closes will not be scheduled into the league and will be placed at the bottom of the waiting list. They will then have until Thursday at 12 noon to do one of two things. First, watch the video and complete the online test with a perfect score, or second, fill out the required refund request form online to receive a full refund of their registration fee. Teams that take the first option, watch the video, and complete the online test with a perfect score by Thursday at 12 noon will be placed on the waiting list in the order that they successfully complete the online test. If there are still spots available in the league, they will then be scheduled into the league. If there are no spots available in the league, they will remain on the waiting list. If no spots then become available during regular season, the team will be eligible to request a full refund of their registration fee. Here are the important dates that you will need to know for this sports season. We suggest you review the captain's information sheet for this sport as posted online. Also, our overall program policy manual, as well as new policies for this year, can be found here. If you have any questions or problems, you can email us at imsports@vt.edu or call 540-231-8297 and ask for Ben, Jeff, or Morgan. Please be aware that sometimes emails from imsports@vt.edu will go to your junk email folder, so check it on a daily basis. Thank you. Have a great season, and don't forget,
Play hard.
Play fair.
respect the game.